CMMS Radio talks about all things CMMS, computerized maintenance management software, focused on maintenance management. It's the people, the process, and the culture that make your CMMS journey a success.
Welcome back to CMMS Radio. We are at the inaugural Mainstream UK Summit in Birmingham. We're at Millennium Point, beautiful venue, very unique conference. I've been to a handful of conferences and I haven't experienced anything quite like this. So that's pretty cool. Today we're going to talk to PJ Cloete.
PJ, just call me PJ.
PJ Cloete, AVT Reliability. I think I combined the two. That's why I said, I'm on US time. What are you going to do? So AVT Reliability, you're a reliability consultancy?
Yeah, we do a bit of work across a number of spheres. So we've got a set of sensors that we manufacture in-house and a software platform that's associated with it. And then we've got the field services side where we will attend customer sites and collect data, perform the analysis for them, or train them to do it themselves. And then we've got the full reliability consultancy side where we do anything from FMEAs to RCAs or anything in between.
Yeah, now, do you focus primarily on the UK market, the European market, or do you also do things in North America, Asia, things like that?
Yes, we've got quite a wide footprint. We've got obviously the business in the UK, we've got an office in Ireland, one in the Netherlands, and a few in North America, between Canada and the States.
Nice.
So, and there's a few additions to the company over the last few years, so we've expanded quite well.
So, the reason I wanted to know that is I've got kind of one of my dear friends gave me a homework assignment, and it's kind of an ongoing thing, but I would love to get your perspective on the differences culturally when it comes to the practices of maintenance and reliability and asset management between, say, for example, the UK and North America, because it seems to me there are some stark differences in willingness to adopt and actually follow the behaviors that are going to get you to those outcomes when we look at the UK. But can you speak to what some of the differences are? Not necessarily calling anybody out, but I'm just curious what the differences are for achieving outcomes.
I can't specifically speak to differences between the UK and the States because I don't have much experience with plants in the States or customers in the States. But certainly if I look at it from a point of view from South Africa where I started to the UK, the cultural differences, and then even just within the UK, cultural differences between business streams, there are massive similarities across the South African culture and the UK culture. So I can only assume that there would be similar alignment between the UK and the States. And the culture is often driven by the leadership. You'll find that where there's strong leadership and a strong belief and a strong strategy in asset maintenance and asset management and the desire to improve with a long-term strategy, those sites, whether it's a single site or a multi-site organization, will always perform well. The ones who don't focus too much on sticking to their strategy and try to change every 3 or 5 years because they're chasing the flavor of the month, they tend to either fail or go through the reliability roller coaster, which is a bit of an issue. And I found that wherever I go.
So, and that's really well kind of founded in what we tend to see over these years. And I get to learn a lot of this from the people that I interview, right? I'm not a reliability professional or expert, but I love the concepts. I'm very passionate about the industry and maintenance itself. I like CMMS. Speaking of CMMS, being that we know it's a tool, it's not the end-all be-all. It has to be built on good fundamental cultures that move well, that have the right workflows and the right behaviors. Otherwise, it's all for naught. Do you find that when you go into an environment to help them improve, maybe they've come to you for a facility assessment and you also assess the culture and you identify some things that people are more resistant to or more likely to take on the challenge of a cultural change before leaning on technology, or is there still too much of a tendency to think and lean on technology as if it's going to solve something?
It's a great question. I think the answer is somewhat complex, but if we slim it down to something really simple, I would say that it depends on the team on site. So I've got a few clients who've got multiple sites across a country, and each site will react slightly differently to the approach. Some will want to go for the technology approach because they have people that are triggered or find that enjoyable, and they want to proceed with the new, and they will actively follow whatever you're trying to get them to do. So they'll take the technology approach first, and then if they're successful, you'll find that that success breeds success in the ranks below, so the culture then changes in that way. Other sites, you'll find that the leadership changes, so they may have been stagnant in terms of their approach to whatever systems they may want to use, with software platforms, and it just never stuck. But you get a leader in who's passionate about working with the people and trains the people and allows them to play and develop, and they will then on their own go and find technologies that assist them. 20, 30 years ago, there weren't that many systems available, whereas now you could find 10 systems within 20-second search to give you what you need. And if you empower your people and allow them to develop and make them feel valued and give them space to act, they will go and find the right tools.
So you said a lot there that's really interesting. One was about a style of leadership that allows their teams to play and almost experiment and even fail in order to learn and succeed. And then also this idea, it's very interesting that you said that the technology could, if it's well adopted, could actually impact the culture to lift it up and bring it up in line. And there's a lot of debate on that with people that I talk to, things that I see online about the idea that technology can actually improve your culture. There's many that would say that's just not a thing, but what you've said means it is possible, but under certain circumstances.
Yeah, it is. If you think about it in terms of, we all use a mobile device, a cell phone as an example. Everybody's got a connection to the internet. Now, 20 years ago, our connection was a newspaper or a magazine. Now we walk around with devices. It's a change in technology, just allowing us to access the old data that we used to be able to through the newspapers and a lot more. So saying that, well, if you look at culture change in terms of how technology influences that, look at all the youngsters today. All of them are referring to their devices. When they're asked a question, they'll go and Google it first or use whichever other search engine, but they will use technology to enable their decision making. So the argument that technology doesn't drive culture change is wrong. We are living it. We are it. If you use a GPS for navigation, you are embracing change through technology.
Do you feel like or think that there's a risk of loss when it comes to tribal knowledge, age-old fundamentals, when it comes to leaning on technology too heavily? In other words, will there be, as much as we have advancement, will there be blind spots created by the tendency to lean on the technology and not look at what those basic frameworks are, not actually learning and understanding them? Is that risky?
It is, and you can already see the effects of that if you take teenagers and so forth who are actively using platforms to create content for themselves. They will lean on algorithms to guide them in a particular direction. So they'll use their TikTok feed or whatever else it is, and they'll see a style of clip being created, and they'll try and emulate that. Now, that's all fine and well, but what you find is you get this overpopulation of a particular style for a period of time, and that's why trends will increase in popularity, or elements will increase in popularity extremely quickly and then die a sudden death. What we're seeing is this inability for them to almost think outside of the platform, outside of the digital technology creation. Whereas 15 years ago, even 10 years ago, when children got bored, they could really easily adapt and go and become creative.
Yeah.
Which is, and if you look at adults, We are starting to suffer the same. There are too many people, or not too many people, there are a lot of people relying on platforms like ChatGPT and various other models to help them to solve problems. It's a pro and a con. As long as you understand that you can use it as a guidance mechanism to take you down a particular thought route, you won't necessarily lose your creativity. But the more you depend on technology to support you, that I fear that natural ability to be creative will not die a slow death, but become more difficult to access.
What I'm getting from you is that you're paying attention to a hell of a lot more than just maintenance and reliability. You're having a worldview that's filled in and kind of looking at where technology can help us and potentially hurt us at a human level. And I think that's where it starts to all get connected. I was reminded while you were talking about it of this concept of languidity, laziness of the mind, and we literally can forget how to do something, or certainly be unwilling to, now that we've found an easier way to do it, that we don't have to do any work. Our work and our focus changes, and now if I bring it all the way back to maintenance and behaviors, this idea behind how we're measured, how we're looked upon within an organization, that too, technology or not, shapes how we behave and what we do. One of the things I like to always bring up with anybody I get a chance to talk to with your kind of experience is the operators versus, that feels a little strong, versus maintenance when it comes to how do we get them to kind of ebb and flow and really realize that they're on the same team in the way that they behave. And I think those metrics and how they're measured and what the expectations are, you can't really change them, but is there strategy or a way you've approached it that has been successful?
Well, the one thing I would say is it's going to be extremely difficult to measure anyway, because it's a culture change when you look at the relationship between maintenance and operations. Now, if you want them to get to work together and you want to try or you want to get operations on board, so being an engineer myself, it was always us versus them. But if you start to listen to operations and you start to work with them, you'll start to learn that they know an enormous amount about the plant and the place that they work in. And if you empower them, whether it's just by listening to them and allowing them to act, to go and correct something in the plant that's been bothering them, something small like a panel that's rattling or whatever it is, and you show them that they've got the power to make positive change, that culture change will start to take place, because individuals around them will start to see that change is possible, and positive change at that. And they will in turn start to then drive engineering, because engineering doesn't like to be behind. We're highly competitive as engineers. But in that way, when you start to listen to people and you empower them, you allow them to act, whether you use technology to support it or not is irrelevant. The positive culture change will take place.
Yeah, and there's a lot of kind of repetitiveness in what we tend to talk about with challenges and how to approach change management, how to improve culture. And I think the reason for that is it's a long-standing challenge that's not really going to go away. So we should always be aware of it and having some form of strategy. Of course, you need a plan to improve that. And I think for me, when we look at a conference like this, our opportunity to talk, and I can't imagine, or I can imagine, the conversations you've had so far. What have you found special about this conference and the fact that it is happening in the UK?
Well, the first thing is it's opened a place where people can talk freely about what their passion is, which is asset reliability at its core. It's also made or provided a platform where people can come in and have a particular focus. So we've got multiple streams of talks taking place at the moment, various demonstrations taking place, and you can pick and choose what it is that you would like to go and learn from to figure out where your blind spots are, or just to reinforce the idea that what I'm doing is okay. And the fact that it's taken me 5 years to go from not doing very well to doing somewhat well, that's great. Just to get that affirmation that you are in a community, or that there is a community that exists, people with similar thoughts, where you can go and exchange ideas, get information, and that you can build on that in the next phase, whether it's the local community discussions that follow this, or leading up to the next conference next year, or whatever it is. I think this has done really well for us.
Yeah, well, for me, it's a very unique experience, having never been to the United Kingdom or Birmingham, of course, and being able to meet someone that's from another region of the world and practiced in different regions in the world. I love to gather and try to curate those stories for someone, so I hope it helps somebody out there. But Cloete, I keep screwing it up. All right, it's PJ Cloete, and I want to thank you for being here with me on CMMS Radio. He's with AVT Reliability, and we are at Mainstream UK Summit in Birmingham.
Did you find this episode helpful? Please send us some feedback, suggest a topic, or ask a question. Reach out to CMMS Radio if you need a co-pilot on your CMMS project. Visit CMMSradio.com and use the What's on Your Mind link. Thank you for tuning in to CMMS Radio, your resource for all things CMMS, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey.